Authority, Housing Authority, Perris Joint Powers Authority, and the Perris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Perris this Thursday, June 6, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Corona. Councilmember Rabb. Councilmember Rogers. Mayor Pro Tem Magana.
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Here, thank you. Item 3 is our invocation, which will be led by Councilwoman Rogers. If you'd all stand up and remain standing for item 4, which will be our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Corona.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Please give the council the wisdom tonight to make wise decisions in the best interests of the city. We ask that you bless these proceedings, that you keep us uplifted in prayer as we deliberate over the most qualified candidates this evening. We ask as always that you protect our first responders, all of our staff, all of our residents, from our oldest seniors to our youngest baby here in the city, that we may be uplifted and do all things that are decent in your eyes, dear Lord. We ask all these things in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right hand over your heart.
Thank you. Item 5 is our business item. 5A, Planning Commission appointments. This will be introduced by Dr. Grace Williams, our Director of Planning and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. This item will be presented by our legal counsel, Eric Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just to set the table, the council in previous months decided to amend the ordinance for the Planning Commission and reduce the number from 7 to 5. And the simplest way to fill those new 5 seats was to have all the terms end on June 30th and just appoint 5 new members. So the process that the council has directed us to follow is do a ballot process where each people just selects who they want to be on the commission, as opposed to motioning and seconding and voting no on anybody. And but because the terms have to be staggered, there's 2 4-year terms and there's 3 2-year terms. The terms are numbered in the ordinance. That the numbering is really not relevant. It's just sort of an accounting thing so that the clerk's office can track who is in the seats over the course of years. Our recommendation is to consider the 2 4-year terms first, and then get those out of the way, and then after that is done, then move to the 2-year terms. We have a list that you have in front of you. Appointment ballots. These are not private ballots. I will be reading all of your selections as we go along. You'll note that the candidates, 2 of them are lined out. Mr. Cordova and Mr. McCarron withdrew from the applications today. And as my understanding as of right now, Alex Marin is not registered to vote. That's one of the qualifications that you must have in order to be appointed. So that name will not be considered. So unless you have any questions, what we're going to do is you'll see up in the right-hand corner, it says 4-year terms and 2-year terms. If you would like to, you would, before you vote now, you could ask Mr. Mayor, you could have all of the candidates come up. And typically you just give them a few minutes to, you might want to set a clock, maybe 3 minutes, so they can give a little presentation and you can ask questions. And at the end of all that, then we can go through this balloting process. And the process will be that you'll mark up your ballot and send it down my way. I'm all set up to mark it up and read each council member's choice. And if in the first round someone gets 3 little check marks, then that's a majority of the council, and that person will be set aside as being appointed to the commission. And then we'll do that as necessary, repeat as necessary. When all is said and done and there are 5 members, then there would be a motion and then a second and a vote would be in order to appoint them officially. And all these things will be tallied and retained by the city clerk's office. So
Very good. So we
it
will,
away.
we have a list. It's
And I don't know
Not-
what the order these are in. They're no
I'm-
particular
well,
order.
I was going to say, it's not in any particular order. So we're just going to have the city clerk will call up each individual applicant, starting from number 1 all the way down to 15. Because there is 15, generally speaking, we usually do 3 minutes. We're going to set the clock for 3 minutes, but let's kind of shoot for a goal of 2 minutes. If you need more than 2 minutes, then I will allow you to keep talking, but once we hit the 3-minute mark, we're going to call it quits. Fair enough? Very good. Okay, Madam Clerk, we are ready to start, so you may call up the first applicant.
Okay, Ruben Aras.
Doesn't happen that your last name is an A and you were number 1, just,
Well, good evening. My name is Ruben Arras. I'm here to apply for the position of the Planning Commissioner. I thank you for this opportunity. I'm married. I have 2 kids. Been married for 37 years. I have 3 grandbabies, and I live in Perris for 30 years. I was volunteered, what did I say? I was board member for Perris Elementary for 10 years, and it was a very good time working there. Presently, I'm a planning commissioner for the city of Perris for 3 years and 6 months. I enjoy and working with the city of Perris and working with the planning commissioners and the city council. We have been doing really good things for the city of Perris. I enjoy my work, and I'd like to work for another 4 years if it's possible. Thank you so much.
thank you. Before we, no, go ahead, Ruben, you can sit down, thank you. I just want to make a note. Be relaxed, this is not a stressful interview, you're not applying for the police captain or anything like that. You know, just, this is a happy Thursday, and we just want everybody to just say what you got to say. Madam Clerk?
Dwayne Hammond.
I can't imagine what I could say to be any different. I'll keep it 2 minutes because that's not usual for me. I know. I'll piggyback on what he said. I'm currently the chairman of the Planning Commission. Been on this commission since 2002, so I'm one of the OGs, as I like to call myself, and I don't mean gangster either. But one of the original people there. I have 2 daughters in their 20s, and I can't even tell you what age they were when I started. Okay. But I'm happy to be a county commissioner in the city of Perris, and I think pretty much what I have down has not changed much. So what I do enjoy about the city of Perris, I've seen the progression since 2002. None of these people know Councilman Rogers actually elected me. She's probably not sure she hasn't regretted that. But she first brought me on this back then, and back then you would have 10 or 11 projects at a time that you would see on the Planning Commission. And so a lot of the stuff that you see today that's being approved, we did way back then. Even the general plan, which most people out here never heard of, but the general plan started back then. So I was happy to get training and CEQA and training in LEAD and all the other things that you have to learn as a planning commissioner. And I'll stop and say this. The thing about the planning commission that you have to understand it's a quasi-judicial appointment, and you serve at the behest of the city council. And I think people have to understand that when you serve in this position, you are serving at the behest of the city council, and no matter what your opinions are, what your thoughts are, you have to always remember that you serve the city and you serve the city council, and you make recommendations that are unbiased, that are fair to any developer, regardless of what their economic status is or how much money they bring to the table. And I think that's the most important thing I've learned over the years. You never stop learning if you're a planning commissioner, and the day you do, you step down. So that's been a pleasure. I've managed to maintain 2 kids in their 20s now. They stayed with me despite all this stuff. And my wife, too, has been a supporter of this. And I'm very happy and always happy to be a part of the city of Perris. And I've been involved in a lot of stuff, as you can see there. I plan to leave the city of Los Angeles only in the sense of retirement, because I started when I was 15. I tell everyone, and they just start laughing. But it's been there long enough to where I put enough time in, and there's a lot of people retiring this year from my city too, so I'm not the only one. But unfortunately, I'll have more time to do other things. So be happy to serve in the commission as well. I still have my mind and I still have my energy and ability, so I appreciate the time. I can't imagine anything new unless you just have something to ask. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. I'm retired, and be careful what you say when you say you have a lot of time.
Alfonso Hernandez. Elizabeth Jimenez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Jimenez. I have been living in the city of Perris for 9 years now. I always lose track, but I always think back to my youngest was 1 when we moved into the city. I am a teacher within the Valverde Unified School District. I have worked for a nonprofit that is statewide, the California Association for Bilingual Education. I was an administrative systems manager. I have also worked for Best Buy as in management positions. I have been an avid community member, an advocate for parents. I was president of the DLAC, District English Language Advisory Committee for Valverde, while I was a stay-at-home mom while I raised my 2 little ones, who are now big. I've served on school side. I'm still very involved with the parent-teacher organization. I'm involved with the school side council. I lead professional development for parents and teachers. I am also, within the positions that I've held, have been very aware that sometimes there's things you want to do and there are limitations. So I understand policy. I understand limitations. I'm a really quick learner. I love living in the city. My daughters would come to the Taekwondo classes here at Bob Glass Gymnasium. My oldest is in band, so we come to the Perris parades, and we are very, very involved. I have my sister here. We shop here. We try to keep everything local. I think I represent an area of the community and a group within their community that I don't always see represented, and I don't know why that is, but I would like to be that representation of our community, speak on behalf of our community, and still learn from everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy Leos.
My name is Tammy Noah Leos, and I'm a new resident to the city of Perris. I just bought a home out here in November. Perris is growing by leaps and bounds, and I want to be a part of that. As far as what I do right now, I do work in the city of Anaheim. I work for Disneyland. I was commuting every day, driving 120 miles. I finally got smart. I get on the bus now in Riverside at the train station. I don't know a lot of people out here. I don't even know my way around this city. But when I saw this ad, I thought to myself, I would love to be a part of the growth of this city. You guys have amazed me. I used to run a sales team in 2004, and we used to come to the city of Perris. It has changed so much to me that I was willing to buy a home out here. I don't know anyone in here. I don't even know what to tell you guys. I'm just excited, and I want to be a part of that excitement. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Alex Marin.
He's not eligible.
Ivan Marin.
Good evening, council members, honorable mayor. My name is Ivan Marin. I've had the honor to serve in the planning commission for a little bit over 14 months, and it's been a pleasure working with these gentlemen, and I've learned a whole bunch. My background is engineering. I do own a small concrete business that we run out of the city of Perris, and I believe in the position. It's beneficial to have different people from different aspects. One of them coming from like a builder, so to be able to understand the applicants and some of their struggles, it's always a plus. And I've been here 28 years, and I've been married here, raised a family. Really don't plan to go anywhere. You know, I love my city. I pick up trash when I go to the parking lot. You know, it's just, that's who I am, you know. I really appreciate the opportunity to extend some more time and be of service to the residents and to our great city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Perez.
Hello, honorable members of the City Council. My name is Steve Perez. I'm a voter, a homeowner, and almost a 5-year resident of the City of Perris, although I did spend many summers here as a child at the lake. I feel that in many ways, age, heritage, and class, I represent a significant portion of our city. This has motivated me to advocate on behalf of issues that I care about, issues that impact my neighbors and my family. Truthfully, I am most passionate about environmental issues and their impact that they might have on marginalized communities and wildlife. But Perris is by and large not a wildlife refuge. I don't think Perris is special because of its geographic boundaries or its place on a map. I think Perris is special because of the people that live here. I think it's one of the last places that a working class family, regardless of race or class or anything, can pursue the American dream. If I'm lucky enough to be appointed to the Planning Commission, this is the perspective that I hope to bring there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phyllis Scott.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phyllis Scott. I've been a homeowner here in the city of Perris for 10 plus years. I am a retired state of California worker. I work for the people. I have really enjoyed, I'm currently a planning commissioner, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to decide on the projects and the many different businesses that come to Perris. And I look forward in the future to be able to be one of the considerable candidates to be appointed so I can continue to see the city growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack Shively.
Good afternoon. Jack Shively. I'm a registered architect. I've been registered for 6 years now and been in the construction and design industry for about 24 years now. I've been a past chairman and vice chairman of the city council, of the planning commission, and I just strive to provide my best services and design skills of all the new buildings that are coming in town, whether they be industrial, residential development. My goal is to understand what the developer is trying to do and give my point of best perspective of the design and to create better designing buildings in the city of Perris. I enjoyed my time that I currently served on the Planning Commission and look forward to providing my unbiased and best effort and best decisions to make the city of Perris the best place it can be, and I enjoy the time I have served on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Smith.
Good evening, Council. My name is Stephen Smith. Me and my wife have been residents and homeowners here for about 16 years. We've watched Perris just grow expeditiously. I remember going on a military deployment. I'm also a retired veteran, 20 years, U.S. Navy. I remember going on a deployment and coming back, and we got extra lanes on the 215. Exciting, because when we first moved to Perris, well, when we first thought about moving to Perris, we were living in San Diego, so we were driving down looking for houses, and we stopped in Temecula. Well, we were already out overpriced in San Diego, so, and then we ended up coming to Perris one day, and I told my wife, we're moving to Perris. And she said, you sure? I was like, yes, I'm sure. So in 2003, we moved in, and like I said, it's just been wonderful here. All the new businesses that are coming in, and Right now, I'm retired, and I would love to give my input and serve the city council with making sure projects that are coming in are, first of all, just keeps up with the history of Perris and doesn't disturb the history, and make sure that they're eco-friendly and brings in what's called just livable wage jobs for the residents that are here. So I thank you, and hopefully you guys have heard me and my consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you for your service.
Chris Thompson.
Good evening, Council. My name is Chris Thompson. I'm a local pastor and a chaplain at local county jails here. I'm a husband of a beautiful wife, a father of 4 children, 2 in college, 2 in our local school system, and 5-year resident, and this is home. Many of you know that our church is somewhat new, and when you plant a church, you're going to plant in a community that you're going to be at, and you're going to grow in that community, and that's something that is very important to us. I think one of the qualities that comes through ministry and working in this environment, and also in my past in marketing, advertising, branding, is a lot of listening that you have to do in these roles, in seeing what the needs are of your congregation, what the needs are of clients, and in this position, what the needs are of the city first and foremost, and what the needs are of Perris and its residents is a priority of mine. It's a priority of our family. So appreciate the opportunity to bring you an application tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brian Walker. That is all.
Oh, that's the one? Oh, never got to remove that one. Okay, thank you everyone for coming out this evening. What we're going to do now is entertain questions. We're going to basically follow the same order. So I will say who we're going to be speaking about, and Council, if you can just please utilize the speaker request, so I catch you guys in line, and then if you want to speak again, you'll pop up again. So I'm not going to get a stiff neck going back and forth all night long. So we'll start with applicant Ruben Arras. Anybody like to speak, please? You don't have to, well, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead. Okay, Mr. Rabb, you're on the queue first. You're up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for reapplying Mr. Arras. This is going to be a question I'm going to ask for all the incumbent planning commissioners. What is your proudest achievement as a planning commissioner, and how do you already add value to the planning commission?
I feel I like to listen to the new applicants coming in and checking out the sites and see if it's a good site to have. Looking at the site is understanding it better than just looking on paper, and understanding that I feel I'm making the right decision, and having to better serve the city of Perris and having something lifted up for the city, like the senior homes. I think that was a good project that just come up off of 8th Street, I believe it was. That was a good thing for us to have, and I'm very appreciative of that I made the right choice for the community. And,
Councilman Corona.
Yes, I do have a question. I'll probably be asking most everybody here the similar question. But what is your opinion on the current general plan, and what are some of the factors that you would want to would contribute into wanting to change it or zone changes?
Well, I know we're looking into growth, and I would think that Olympics is coming up, and my thing is to be ready for the people coming in to visit our town, and having a motel ready for them to uplift and have some, a better serve for our community to offer them, because we're running out of time and it's coming up pretty soon for the special, the Olympics coming up. So I think when we've been mentioning it in the planning commissioner to see if we can get something like that. I know it's in the ballpark, but we need to go forward on that to get some better hotel services for our community and for the people coming in for the Special Olympics. We have to be prepared on that. So I think that's a good plan that we're going through that, but we need to encourage to get more things coming up for our future.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, Mr. Harris, could you elaborate on some of the training you've had as an existing planning commissioner member?
Well, I had David Stewart train me. So, I mean, he was a good mentor for me, and that was my training for coming into this. And I think it was a good thing for having a mentor like that and treating me with fair respect and showing me what to look for and how to, understand the whole concept of being a planning commissioner. And that was I was happy, very happy and pleased.
Thank you.
Okay, there's no one else in the queue. Thank you very much. Well, hold on. I forgot about myself. So I'm going to be asking the same question to everybody as well, too. And you already do understand that the commission meets on the first and the third Wednesday, 6 p.m., and you have no issues getting beyond on time?
No, I'm here all the time, and sometimes early. I'm very punctual.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Dwayne Hammond, you're on the spotlight. No pressure.
Yes, sir.
Can you clear the speakers, please? Okay, Councilman Rabb, did you?
Yes, I was going to ask Mr. Hammond the same question I asked Mr. Ross. What is your proudest achievement or accomplishment as a planning commissioner? And you've kind of already elaborated on this in your application, but how do you add value as a member of the Planning Commission?
Proudest achievement, boy, how much time do I would say essentially to work as a cohesive unit and not make it my achievement and make it a group achievement. That is the proudest achievement. And if you look back at the history, all the achievements that the Planning Commission has done, they've done as a cohesive unit, working together. So diverse unit came together and made decisions about planning. That's an achievement. And the second question was, I'm getting old.
How do you add value as a planning
I
commissioner?
think one of the things is without going through just the history, the training and background I have, not just as mentioned, 35 years in the city of Los Angeles with Housing, Community Investment Department, Community Development, Transportation. I've been just about everywhere you can think of. And I actually have 40 years in city government history. So I've worked in a lot of city governments, so I'm used to city government. I'm also used to the fact that for us, I think we as a city, how do you say this? I think we as a city, as we come together and we work together and we accomplish things together, I think that to me not only is an achievement, I think that's where I see my thing is being trained in LEED certificate training. I've gone to League of California Cities. I've represented the city of Perris, sometimes by myself, for the whole entire League of California Cities, and that's where we got together with planning commissioners. I've got training in CEQA. I'm probably the only person here that has actual training in CEQA, most boring training I've ever had. But 8 hours of sleepy stuff, I'm here to tell you. But when you get training in that, you learn how to apply it. So it's one thing to get training, it's another thing to apply the training. It's another thing to implement it. Working on a general plan, I was one of the original people that worked on a general plan, so I have a little slight advantage there. Originally, it was done in 1991. Then it was done again in 2005. Then there was several meetings to do a general plan because all the elements have to be done separately, and there was training session meetings for each one of those. So that could be 14, 15 meetings at some time. But I think by working on a general plan, and I'm anticipating the next question, one of the things that you're seeing today is the need for multifamily development. The state of California is going to start insisting on that. We have a housing element, but that's not going to do. You're going to have to come up with multifamily housing development, or you may face a lawsuit. And a city, I think, was Costa Mesa that faced one. So we don't want to get in a position where we don't have enough multifamily housing. I think that's one of the few things that I see that we may have to do in the future to improve the general plan. Second, parks. Community parks is one of those things that you're supposed to tie into developments, and I know there's one plan, a meeting in the late part of June this month, but I think the idea of tying in green space with building developments is going to have to be emphasized a lot more. So hope I didn't take up too much time. I kind of anticipate the question there. Okay. So my achievement is working with people and being able to achieve things as a unit as opposed to me getting the credit.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Mr. Chairman, in your 17 years of being on the Planning Commission, can you speak to your attendance over those 17 years?
I've never missed a day. And that's including commuting to Los Angeles, being dead tired, crawling into a meeting, literally crawling into a meeting. But it's not because I'm a special person, it's because you have to be committed. If you're going to join something, that's me, I'm going to show up. If I can drive 150 miles a day, instead of 120, it's 150 miles a day, work 9.5-hour days, you better be committed here. And there's no way you're going to make 17 years, and now I'm much older too. There's no way you're going to do that unless you're committed to a process. I really thank you for originally doing it. She had no idea who I was, and she selected me to be on the commission. But anything I do, and I put my name on, I'm going to be committed to. And I can't say that somehow something doesn't happen because I don't know the future. Because that meeting I could not show up, something could happen. But it's being committed to a purpose and a cause. And if you're not committed, you can't do this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Magana.
Thank you for reapplying. In your application, you mentioned enticing white-collar businesses to
Yes.
our community. In your opinion, how do you feel you can attract white-collar businesses to come out into our city?
One is zoning, looking at your zoning. If you're going to have research, development, things like that, you want to tie that into the city because those are things you can do because of open space. So generally, you'll look at government buildings, you look at government operations. That's one area you can look at. I don't want to get into type A, type B, type class stuff because then I get into a lecture here. But the idea is, really will, but the idea is you're looking at type A class building. That just means a superior form of architecture for commercial buildings. I'm just simplifying it. When you start looking at that kind of building structure, it gets down to zoning. You look at your areas like Ramona Expressway. You have to do environmental overlay zones. It's something you have to consider as a council, not just a commission, because if you don't have that, you have to tie in the managers that are there with these industrial warehouses. So if you want the managers, you want some of those mid-level people to start living here, you have to entice them not only with retail, recreation, and other things like that, but you have to have the type of infrastructure that allows for office complexes. We're not expecting skyscrapers like you have in Riverside. You know, we're not going to have the 30-foot towers right now. But I think the idea of Class A structures and buildings like that, so you have offices and businesses here, that will be one of those things that will entice those people here. You have to lay the infrastructure, and that comes from zoning, and that comes from economic development. That's a short version. Okay.
Councilman Corona.
Yes. You know, I definitely want to thank you for applying again. I'm not sure if there's any debate here about your experience here. You know, you've been here for 17 years. And I do appreciate you answering the questions with the general plan. But in 2005, you did say that you kind of had some input in the general plan. Mm-hmm. But since then, you voted numerous times to change to have some certain zone changes. Mm-hmm. It seems like those zone changes have always been from either commercial to industrial or maybe even possibly residential to industrial. Have you ever gone the other way around? And do you anticipate voting for more zone changes to industrial?
I think the caveat for making those votes is the airport. That plan dictates what you do on the northwest corner, so you really don't have many options in that corner. Without getting into detail about A, B, and C zones, the idea is if you vote against that, you're really voting against the airport. And if you have a tragedy like the airplane that crashed there, you're going to be at fault as the city because statement of overriding conditions, it comes on the city. So the city becomes liable. Now, when some cases, you'll have residential development, and if the market changed like it did in 2010, you had a lot of hotbed stuff in 2005. So most of the voting was residential. When you start talking industrial, started coming in, what we call fulfillment centers now, or whatever other name, or warehouses, that was kind of on the area along the airport corridor. And even down south, you have the Perris Valley Airport. There's still a corridor that you can only vote certain things in that area. I think the only caveat, some of the changes it might have made was, I think, on Perris Boulevard, and I think it's the Westinghouse or whatever building, that was not residential. But that was an industrial. Now, we might have changed, if it was a general or light industrial or things like that, rarely would you change from residential to that. I think one of the only regrets, I think, in the council, and I was kind of against it, and I don't want to get specifics coming back, down south on Getz Road, I think it became an industrial project, but I personally wanted a park. Okay, I'm in a community park on that side. But again, you have 7 people, and so you have to negotiate, go back and forth. Sometimes you have to think about that. So it's not always what I want. I may go a certain way, but then you got to do group consensus. So that was probably one of the only time in 17 years, well, twice, but that was one of the only time that you kind of go, is that really a good idea? You know. But most of the northwest corridor near the airport region, you literally are going to end up with a general or light industrial development. Now, manufacturing, where you have physical manufacturing of plants like that, because you may have 100 or more employees, that gets kind of dicey because obviously controlled by that airport, ALUC, I think they call it, and it was changed in 2014, I think. So some updates to that thing, that was even old, it was 1984. But because March Air Force Base has changed and made some adaptations, we're able to do a lot more things, but you still can't put things in that runway corridor. That dictates most of the votes. So if there were changes, it was based on the fact they were in that airport landing area. If we're going to make changes, and if I'm talking too much, let me know. Ramona Expressway going east, and that corridor over there is not part of that zone. It might be C and just outside C. You could probably get economic development, entertainment, bowling alleys. You can get things like that along the hotels in that area. That's more of a viable. That's why I talk about there, economic development, overlay. It's that part of town that you can do that. It's my best shot.
Thank you. My question, you answered basically with Councilwoman Rogers with your perfect attendance, so.
I try.
Thank you for reapplying. Okay, next up we have Alfonso Hernandez. Did he make it in? Elizabeth Jimenez? Councilman Reb?
Yes. Ms. Jimenez, you mentioned you're a teacher. What grades do you teach, and how do you think that would help you by serving on the Planning Commission?
I taught kinder for the last year and a half. I did first grade last year, and next year I was just informed I'm going to be teaching third grade GATE. I think teaching is a huge asset that we bring to the community because I am in contact with the young ones every day. I see what their needs are now, and I can foresee what their needs are going to be as they go through our education system. I'm also in very close contact with the families. I'm very involved. I think I've had 10 parent volunteers in my classroom, which is unheard of at our site and many sites. So I think I developed very good networking and relationships with the community so that they're comfortable. I listen, work with them, not against them, not telling them what to do. I listen and we work together for the benefit of their children. And I think teaching has given me that insight as well as a huge understanding of budgeting. There's a huge insight on limitations, policies. Thank you. Good question.
Okay, nobody's on the queue. My question that I've asked is, you are aware that you'll be meeting on the first and the third Wednesday of every month, 6 p.m. Is that going to be an issue with you getting to that meeting on time?
Not whatsoever. We usually have meeting free, or if we have meetings, they only go until 3, and I'm down the street, so it would not be an issue.
So you don't expect freeway traffic or anything?
Oh, thank God, no. Remember, I worked in Covina for years, and that's why I never applied for any of these positions, because I knew there was no way I would make it in on time, and I did not want to sign up for something I could not be committed to.
Thanks. Okay, Malcolm came in, and Councilman Corona.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure you answered it already earlier, but how many years have you lived in the city of Perris?
Going on 10 years, and for a while there I was a stay-at-home mom, then I went back to work, and the closest thing I could find of with my educational background and my experience was in Covina.
So I think you stated already you've seen a lot of positive changes. Are there any negative changes that you feel maybe the city could have done differently?
Well, I know that there was some rezoning, and I attended a few of the meetings, and I think those were my only concerns. Overall, I think the city's doing great things. I see beautiful growth. I am very proud to be a part of it. But I think some of those rezoning situations have been a little bit concerning to me, as well as the community that I work with directly at our site and in the district.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Tammy Leos. Councilman Rab?
Yes, Ms. Leos, you mentioned you work at Disneyland.
Yes, sir.
And what capacity do you work in Disneyland, and how do you think your work with Disneyland would translate in serving on the Planning Commission?
I work at Disneyland as a vacation planner. I've been with the company for 13 years. We do have to do a lot of multitasking. In my area, I am a trainer for my job. I don't know necessarily if my job qualifies me to be on the Planning Commission. I think more so the fact that I've raised 6 kids, 4 boys and 2 girls, and today was my granddaughter's graduation. Everyone in my family has either graduated from high school or college. I'm like the head of my family. I may seem like I'm a really nice person, but I have to be very stern with them and make them understand that they have to be law-abiding citizens in this world. So I think more so what I have to offer as far as the planning committee comes from my personal life, not necessarily my job. Okay?
Councilman Corona?
Yes, you stated that you moved here since November. Which city were you in before?
Long Beach,
In Long
California.
Beach, okay. Okay. So I take you take the bus 200 over there to Disneyland, or?
Now I do. I take the 200 Express.
Okay.
I was putting 120 miles a day on my car, and eventually I wanted to be able to keep my car since I paid it off a couple of years ago. Everyone at my job was telling me to get out of the car, get on the bus, but I have to be honest with you, I'm a car person. I didn't think I could do public transportation, but I don't think people should never say never. I've read 4 books so far. I've only been doing it for a month. I actually have spendable cash now. I don't go to the gas station every other day now. It's just great. And my company pays 75% of my bus fare, so I'm there.
I'll be there too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you came from a large city to a smaller city. Are there some things that you kind of miss from Long Beach that you wish to possibly see in the future in Perris?
No. There's a lot of homeless people in Long Beach. It took me 3 months to see a homeless cart out here, and it was parked. And I was like, oh my God. But I never saw the homeless person. So I just feel like I'm winning out here. I'm living my best life out here, you guys. I grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, in this kind of community. So it's like being home again, but I'm in California. There's no way. It's good. I'm good.
Mayor Pro Tem Magana.
Thank you for applying. In the 6 months that you have been a resident in Perris, what do you feel is one of the biggest needs that our community has?
An outreach program for new people that move here. You know, someone to come and knock on your door and say, hi, welcome to the city.
Here's your Disneyland passes and
Hey, we'll talk, Mayor. I don't know. It's been all positive for me. People actually wave at me and speak to me. And it was like when I first came out here, someone waved at me, and I'm like, me? Oh, it's just so, it's a beautiful thing. I'm going to say again, I'm living my best life out here. So I just want to be a part. That's all. That's it.
I'm just curious, how did you hear about Perris from Long Beach?
My realtor told me that either I could try to buy a shack in Long Beach for $600,000, or you could take a chance, get out of your box, and go out to the Inland Empire and get more bang for your buck. And I'm like, no, it's too hot out there. She's like, just give me a chance. So she drove me out here, and at first she wanted me to go to Moreno Valley, and I'm sorry, I watch a lot of news, and I'm like, no way, I ain't going to Moreno Valley, So she said, well, come and look at Perris. I looked at 10 properties in Paris, and the very last house, that was it for me. It was it. It was everything I wanted. I've owned a 2-story house with the high maintenance and all this and that. I have a 1-story house. I got a front yard, a backyard. I'm about to buy me a grill. I mean, it's just, I just don't, you guys don't understand. It took me a while to like get it together because I got a divorce and went through a reversal of fortune and all of that. So I listened to my realtor.
I appreciate the comments. I was born and raised in LA, so I know what you mean coming from Long Beach to here.
Yeah.
Paris is a great place to live, work, and play. And I'm glad you're seeing that. And of the 23 cities in the city of Riverside, I'm happy that you chose Paris.
Me too.
So the one question I do have, and what seems to be pretty important coming from Anaheim, we do meet on the first and the third Wednesday, 6 p.m. Is that going to be an issue for you getting here?
No, it's not. I'm going to change my schedule.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, Alex is not here, right? Ivan Marin? I got Councilman Rab.
Yes. Mr. Marin, the question I've asked all the incumbent planning commissioners, what is your proudest achievement as a planning commissioner, and how do your background, training, experience add value to the planning commission?
Yeah, we had several projects come through. As you know, some of the candidates will learn if they get elected. Sometimes you walk into projects that have been going on for years through the city, and they either been held because of the economic recession, or the developer finds issues through land use or permitting. So one of the jobs that came across was our AAA, their yard. It was phase 2, and one of the issues that they had was street lights on the phase 1 that they didn't install, and they've been giving them time and time after to put them in, and they were just kind of lagging. So they were looking for their approval for the phase 2. So one of the things that came through, our members was, hey, get the phase 1 done so that we add safety. You have in the city of Perris, in that area, you have a lot of trucks or truckers, and it just creates a unsafe space. So that was one of the conditions. The other one was WCA, who's also an older project on Ethanak Road, or is it Getz Road? Yeah. One of the issues they had, they've been functioning for 6 years, and they were supposed to do some street widening and some beautification to their facility, and now they were looking for some additional extensions. They were looking for a year, so I think we gave them 6 months, to put a little bit of pressure on them as well to get their end of the deal done and make it a safer place for the residents. I think was it a year ago there was a bicyclist that was hit in that road and stuff. So those are the concerns.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Mr. Barron, would you speak on some of the training that you've received as an existing planning commissioner?
Well, the training's been hands-on. He doesn't know it, but Dwayne, I look at him, and so he's like my guy to follow and listen. So I've been been sort of quiet up there, but mainly because you have to listen. Coming into a new position, there's with all the general plans and specific plans, and asking the right questions to the candidates coming in presenting their projects. It's just mainly been listening to the other folks that have been doing it for a while, and learning from them and some of their perspectives, because there's so much involved on a particular project that, and especially coming in fresh, it's hard to follow. So it's been our team mainly.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for applying. What advantages do you feel you have with your background? I know you have a bachelor's in science and mechanical engineering and the work that you do over somebody who wouldn't have that kind of background.
That's kind of like It's a little unfair question because, sure, I think we're all the same, all the candidates that are coming up here tonight to serve our city. But there are advantages to having an engineering degree. It mainly serves to understand the applicant. Also, the construction side of it, some of the difficulties, the finance. Being that I have a small concrete business, we're not into building for ourselves, but we're working with developers on projects that there's issues, and there's issues because of cost overrun, which is very typical in construction. So it gives me benefit to be able to sit back and evaluate further and consider alternative options for the candidate on their particular project. Something that is achievable, because we can sit here all day and demand this and demand that, but is it achievable? Can the candidate get it done, within reason? I believe that's one of the advantages.
Councilman Corona?
Christie, what your opinion is on the current general plan? I do know that you have been a resident of Perris for most of your life.
Sure.
I'm sure you would agree that it's been mostly positive change. Are there any things that you would have changed? So it's kind of two questions in there.
So the general plan's been changing because of demand. Some of the area that's been zoned for housing or has been changed to, or needs to change to multifamily housing. We need to follow what the market is demanding. I mean, we can sit here and specify this to be commercial zoning or light industrial zoning, but we need to just really listen to what's happening in the economy, and what good does it do to have a general plan that doesn't attract the new businesses, the new developers in here, and to really listen to their needs. And I know we've had some projects come through where we made some minor modifications. So, yeah, hope that answers your question.
For the follow-up to that, are there any things that in the past, before you were a planning commissioner or during when you were planning commissioner, that you probably would have done a little bit differently?
No, I mean, everything north of, originally walking in, as a planning commissioner, you lack the understanding of why things are a certain way. Like, I always scratch my head, why are we building so many warehouses north of Ramona? But understanding, the airport and the land, the crash zone and everything, so learning and everything now gives me a reason of understanding why it was that way and why it's set up in such a manner. Hope that answers your question.
How long have you been on the commission? Has it been over a year?
Yeah, 14 months coming up. Yeah,
You haven't been offered training yet,
yes.
but you didn't get a chance to go?
No.
And your attendance, have you missed any meetings?
It's I've missed I think three meetings.
So is it tough for you to get here on two Wednesdays a month at 6 p.m.?
Well, being a business owner, sometimes I have scheduled meetings like in Santa Barbara, and I mean, it's on those 3 occasions it was tough to get here and wasn't able to make it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I mixed up all my papers here. Steve Perez. Councilman Reb.
Yes. Mr. Perez, you've gone on record as opposing warehouses with the hashtag no warehousing. How do you balance those concerns with the due process rights of the applicants?
Yeah, that's definitely a fair question. I think that if I sat down with any of you, I would be able to give you an in-depth answer to why why I did lead that effort for the most part. I think we're thinking about a project in particular that had a really high community turnout. And, part of my answer to that is the fact that I come from Anaheim, and quite a bit of development comes to Anaheim. And when that development comes, it's pretty much just railroaded in. And the only way community really has input is to organize efforts around that. So from the perspective of someone that was on the opposite side of me on that issue, I could see how that might seem uncoordinated. But truthfully, I stand before you to tell you that my opposition to that project was not solely based on that project. I knew that one vote on the city council would have a tremendous impact on whether that project would go forward or not. And at that time, in my role as a private citizen and as an activist, my goal there was to try to get as much benefit for the residents of Perris as possible. You're welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks for applying, Steve. As a park ranger, what qualities do you feel you possess that would be great for the Planning Commission?
Sure. Well, I'm really happy to tell you that my current job as a park ranger for Riverside County is pretty much my proudest achievement in my life so far. I have the privilege of leading one of the most beautiful parks in Riverside County, the Idlewild Nature Center. It's a small natural history museum. We have a gift shop. We have a large meeting space. We have a trail network that surrounds the parks. And apart from the paid staff, I'm the site manager there, basically, although my title is park ranger. And apart from the paid staff, I also help lead a nonprofit that works really closely, that funds a lot of our efforts, whose manpower, really it's woman power because most of the volunteers are female, but whose manpower and funding and volunteerism really helps us do a lot of the work that we do. We're leading in the restoration of an animal species, the Pacific tree frog, and we're also leading in the restoration for a threatened mountain wildflower, the lemon lily. We have a festival June 22nd coming up. That's my shameless plug. But it's funny. I just got my first anniversary with the Parks Department last week, and so all week I've really been on cloud nine because I feel so lucky with the responsibility that the district has placed with me there. But I didn't start there. I started as a park ranger with the Parks District, but my first assignment was pretty much one of the most difficult assignments for park rangers in Riverside County. I was known as the beach ranger, so I was in charge of patrolling and enforcing county code along the Santa Ana River watershed. And I worked in a very harsh environment with a significant homeless population there. And I think my job there got me the promotion that I got. I had to balance the needs of community with the human needs of the homeless that lived in the wildlife sanctuary there. And I also had the unpleasant job of telling families that just wanted to have a good time by the river that they couldn't have fires or a barbecue or do things like that because they didn't realize it, but the whole place could go up really easily. I think that's probably my biggest disqualification. Before I was with the Parks Department, I was with the DA's office for like 6 months. You're welcome.
Councilman Corona.
Yes, I do have several questions. For follow with Councilman Rab's question, if a project is if a developer is trying to develop their project on a site that's already zoned for industrial, are there what type of factors would you need to see
Sure.
in order to reject that project?
Yeah. Well, I don't have planning commission training yet. That's something I would absolutely welcome. I know that there's code there that has to be followed, basically, and I look forward to learning that. But generally, when it comes to the general plan, I think Perris has a similar problem than the town that I moved here from has, Anaheim, which is that geographically we're very long, and we have different communities of interest in different places along that geographic area. And so in regards to the general plan, because of the geographic boundaries, I would be motivated to bring amenities to existing communities. existing community clusters. I'd be extremely motivated to work with projects that are focused on bringing rooftops to the city. A major complaint of the developers that say they can't build here or there that come to Perris. I think in some places restrictions are too tight, and in other places the general plan just goes by the wayside. So I think those are all points of concern.
So it's a very similar question that was already asked. You came from a larger city,
Yeah.
and you come to a smaller city. Are there things in Anaheim that you wish that the city of Perris had, besides Disneyland, of course?
Yeah, I worked at Disneyland for 6 months. Although I wasn't a vacation planner, that sounds like the hardest job in the world, by the way, for Disneyland. Well, I'll tell you what I don't want to come from Anaheim to Disneyland, and it's already coming in some ways, is that in Anaheim, developers get whatever they want, and the community's interest doesn't come into play. The truth is that market forces drive what comes to cities, and everyone's needs need to be balanced, and I think that there's a fair way to strike that balance with parties that are interested in meeting there in the middle.
Okay. And I'm pretty sure the mayor's going to ask something similar, but I've seen during the winter time, especially this winter time, your job in Idlewild, as interesting as it sounds, I know sometimes with the weather could be keep you from being home on time. Will that especially during the winter time, will that keep you from making meetings?
Yeah, so February 14th, we had these huge storms, and they destroyed the two closest highways to me to get to work. And I went from having a 1 hour commute to having a 3 hour commute one way. And so and pretty much the situation's just gotten a little bit better recently. So my commute's like an hour and a half now. But I could give you a letter of reference from my boss. I would crawl through glass to get to work, and I do the same thing for the Planning Commission, really. It's that important to me. Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have a question.
Sorry, he took it. But I heard you ask it, and I wrote it down, so I was ready.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Phyllis Scott.
Yes, hi.
Councilman Reb?
Yes. Good evening, Ms. Scott. As an incumbent planning commissioner, what is your proudest achievement, and how do you add value to the planning commission?
Yes, my proudest achievement is one thing to be in here and vote for the projects, but to actually see them go up, the after effect is really amazing. To see that your vote really counts in it to the public, and it's something that the city can get, or the city and the public can get use from. And the way that I can add value, I've been able to bring more than 20 years experience into whatever position I've gone into, from the different positions that I've held for the state of California. And it allows me to get a total sense of, before I vote for the projects, to be able to listen to all sides and aspects of it, as well as be able to intake on-site training, which from my fellow commissioners. I sit and I listen to a lot of concerns that come up, and the way that the questions that they ask, to be able to give me insight on what needs to be addressed, or to be able to answer or vote on a lot of the things that we vote and approve. So I bring over 20 years of experience to the Planning Commission from different positions that I've held.
Okay, there is someone in the queue. Mayor Pro Tem?
Role with the state of California, and what skills do you apply to the Planning Commission?
Oh, I had a lot of roles. I'm gonna, because I had a lot of years and a lot of experience, so I'm gonna just refer back to my, okay. I budgeting. I have, I work program project management with Caltrans, where I approved the different projects. I was the Department of Housing and Community Development, where I approved applications for housing. For auditing and title and escrow. So I bring for a lot of, from different areas, analytical skills where I've had audit referral. So it's a lot of different areas that I've had the ability to work.
Councilwoman Rogers?
As an incumbent planning commissioner, have you attended any special training sessions?
I can barely hear you, sorry.
I'm sorry. Let me speak into the mic then.
Yes.
As an incumbent planning commissioner, have you attended any special training sessions?
One of them was the ethics training.
Okay, but as far as the planning commission,
No, I haven't. Everything that I've been able to pick up has been basically from my opportunity that I've been given as a planning commissioner with my fellow co-workers.
so someone mentored you then?
Excuse me?
Did someone mentor you?
Not really mentor. I just kind of sit back, as Commissioner Moran says, and I listen to all the questions when the projects are presented, the questions that are asked, concerns that there may be before I make my decision. So I listen to both sides before I make the decision.
And can you speak of your attendance record?
I got pretty good attendance. I think I was sick a couple times. That's the only way that I won't come, because I live up the street as well.
Thank you.
And I'm retired.
They answered my questions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jack Shively? Can you guys all punch if you're going to talk? Punch if you're going to speak. You don't have to wait till it's time. Nobody's on the queue. You must be a sharp individual.
I hope I
Oh,
present that.
and now they're coming in. Okay, Councilman Corona?
Okay. Mr. Shively, if you kind of heard the similar questions, what is your opinion on the current general plan? And I guess we'll just start with that right now.
Well, current plan should always be the current zeitgeist of the moment, what's going on in the community, in the city.
Mr. Shively, pick up the microphone closer to you.
It should be the zeitgeist of what the environment, what's going on, the city, of how it's growing, and how the people are needing what buildings that need to be represented by them. There is some areas that need to be improved on. One of the areas are some of the transition zones that need to be reviewed, and how to treat some of the buildings, such as the scale of some of the warehouses encroaching upon residential zones and such, those factors.
Now, you previously discussed about your experience, and you know, I've seen you firsthand in looking at projects and analyzing them and trying to make changes to them, and you've always been professional at that part of it. But my question is, what are some of the factors that make you want to change from the current general plan zone to industrial plan, going from commercial to industrial?
One thing I would not exactly say that I want to go to industrial plans. I believe it's very imperative that each project is dependent upon separately from each other ones. So it's important that each, even there's a Pacific project, the Duke project that was encroaching upon residents. The scale of it and wanting to take over the business, taking away from business planning to zoning, and at that point in time, I didn't think it was appropriate to take away the business professional area because of the residents in that area, Pacific area, really need those services.
Yes, the question I've asked all the incumbent planning commissioners, what is your proudest achievement as a planning commissioner, and how does your background, training, and experience factor into your role as a planning commissioner?
I believe I would say my proudest moment of being a planning commissioner is actually serving on the planning commissioner and serving the city and residents of Perris. And a portion of it was being, for the previous year, being a leader and being, and trying, I guess my goal when I first was the chairman was to do the best I can. And then as I grew into it, I understood that we needed some more input from other planning commissioners. So my goal was to directly address each one of those individuals to get the input from each one. And then the second part of that question is, being an architect, I understand, and presenting before the Planning Commission as well, being on both sides of the podium, I understand what's going through the developer's mind, whether it be a cost-effective, whether it be design-oriented. Being a professional that I am, understanding that aspect of what's going on between both sides of the podium.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, on your resume, you mentioned that you're an architect in 7 states.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that include California as well?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Could you
actually
mention?
California, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, with Washington, Puerto Rico, and Georgia.
So throughout the United States?
Yes, ma'am.
So that gives you a special advantage as you look at different proposals that come forward and reviewing the architectural designs.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm sure you've been a real help to the existing commissioners with that special knowledge that you possess.
I do my best to serve where I can.
And I know you've been a long-standing member on the commission. Can you talk about your attendance record as well?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I believe I have been late to one meeting, which I was hitting traffic coming from up north on a driving. And then I believe 2 months ago, I was absent because of a medical condition for my grandfather. It is my goal and aspiration to be here at all cost. I've even, being a business owner, I've even had a project up in Sacramento, which I actually left and flew back and took care of the planning commission meeting, and then flew back the next morning to take care of the project. So I'm very dedicated to the planning commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shively. All my questions were answered or asked already. Stephen Smith? Councilman Reb?
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Smith. A quick question, what was your rate in the Navy, and at what rank did you retire from?
I was an aviation ordnanceman. I dealt with explosives, bombs, missiles, guns, and I retired as an E6.
Okay, and as an E6, as a petty officer first class, how do you think those leadership skills would translate to serving on the Planning Commission?
Well, I think the key word there is serving, because although we were leaders as an E6, you had to be able to serve the people that were under you. So you had to know what their concerns were. You know, if a guy came to work, a guy or a young lady came to work and something was off about them, you had to serve them, you know, find out what was wrong and find out what the division's needs are. And because if you want people to work for you, you have to be able to serve them and take care of their needs.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you for applying. I'm going to go ahead and read off from your application, just So to clarify a point and hear some more details about it. So you mentioned major companies coming in the form of distribution warehouses, a new super Walmart, etc. Gives me the desire to participate in the future planning and growth of our great city. Could you please define what you meant by that?
Well, with the companies that are coming in, it looks like mostly like a lot of different warehouses that are coming in. Being with those warehouses coming in, are they going to be able to pay the residents of Perris a livable wage? And what type of environmental impact will they have as far as traffic on our streets? With the large trucks traveling up and down Perris Boulevard and those type of things.
Councilman Corona?
Yes. Well, I guess more for curiosity than anything. But in your application, you did mention that you were involved in a community service project in impoverished countries. Which countries were these, or?
Marshall Islands. Marshall Islands. There were so many. We did projects in Singapore, in impoverished areas of Singapore, and also what was one of the other ones? Oh, man. It's been a while.
Okay, and then also in your application, you said that for the vision you have for the city is that the city's development plans are eco-friendly and do not disturb the city's history and heritage. Most of the warehouses have had some form of negative impacts in regards to the environment. How would you find that balance?
Well, if they're going to have negative impact on their environment, we have to come up with a plan of what are they going to do to, provide some type of restoration. They can't just come in and, disturb the environment without the city of Perris and the people of Perris getting some type of compensation. What are they going to do? What are they going to give us since they are doing that?
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes. On your application, you've spoken about your involvement in various upgrade projects for various military commands. Were any of these facility upgrade projects?
No, it would have been on major aircraft carriers. When the aircraft carriers go into dry dock, all the contractors come on board the ship, and we have to, deal with the contractors with tracking them on the jobs that they're doing, what type of impact it's going to have in the surrounding areas, as far as chemicals and things getting into the water, and just making sure that they are doing what they were contracted to do, and that and they're following the time scale.
Okay. Can you also elaborate on some of your specialized training you received in the areas of leadership and perhaps team building?
Oh, that was all the time. Leadership, we always went to different type of leadership trainings. Once a month, there was leadership trainings with divisional officers, and specific training was one was total quality leadership, which basically you don't. It's like there is. Ooh, you stumped me there. It's just total quality leadership throughout the. There's no difference between male and female. Everybody is the same when it comes to leadership. So.
Thank you.
Okay, the question I've had we do meet on the first and third Wednesdays of every month generally, and start time is 6 p.m. Would you have any issues being here on time?
Not at all.
Thank you. Thanks. Chris Thompson? Yes, thank you, sir. Councilman Reb?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson. How do you think that your skills as a pastor would translate to serving on the Planning Commission?
I think I would look at more than just pastoring. I think I would look back in other duties as well. My chaplaincy and other leadership and management positions that I've had, but specifically when you mentioned pastoring, there's many people who come from different areas and different walks of life and have different needs that come into a congregation. Those are important to be able to read, to recognize, and to be able to help find solutions to somebody that might be different than somebody else has. So it's really being open and it's listening and being able to take an entire congregation that is different, that everyone is different, but take everyone in the same direction. And so it's bridging gaps over socioeconomic barriers, over there's differences. Our congregation doesn't look the same as our city doesn't. So it's really seeing that there's differences, but how do we move people with differences in the same direction? And I would say that's one of the skills from pastoring that I would be able to bring.
Thank you.
Okay, it doesn't look like anybody else is on the queue. Mr. Thompson, my question I've had for everybody is Commission does meet on the first and third Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. Would that be an issue for you to be there on
It
time?
wouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and Brian Walker didn't come in lately. Okay, that concludes the questions. So for some simplicity issues, let's vote or turn in your ballots for the 2 4-year term rounds first. And then
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, and I would you don't need to rank anything. You just need to mark a
Right.
dot or an X or something and put your name on it so that I can identify it.
But I'm just for clarification, so that we're not confusing, I just want us to do right now just the 2 4-year, 2-year round terms.
2 4-year terms.
4-year round terms.
Yes, sir.
And then when we turn them in, then we'll conclude with the rest of them.
Correct. That's our recommendation.
Good. No, just, once you're done, hang on to them. The clerk will come and pick them up from everybody.
Unless you want to pass them down to me, I have them prepared to do a tally.
Okay, like I said, when you're done, just pass them down to me. I have a script here that said turn them into the city clerk, but the
Sorry.
city attorney wants me to go the other way.
If you give me a moment.
I haven't turned mine in yet, sir. Okay. Hope I did that right. Okay, so we're not going to wait. Do you want us to wait and do these?
Yes, I would like to. You're not allowed to have a private ballot, so I have to announce who selected what, and then if we have a majority, then we'll know at least the 2 4-year
So I'm
terms.
just trying to clarify, though, but we're going to I'll do the nomination after this is all done, all once.
At the very, very
At the very end.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I've got 11. Reviewing all of the ballots, Mr. Jack Shively was selected unanimously, so all 5. And Mr. Hammond was selected by Mayor Pro Tem Magana, Mayor Vargas, Councilmember David Starr-Rabb, and Councilmember Rogers, so that's 4. And then Ivan Marin was selected by Councilmember Corona. So the way that the system has been working is that Mr. Shively has 5 votes and Mr. Hammond has 4, so we could set those aside and then move on to the next level.
Okay, so now on this one, it's just going to be 3 check marks.
This would vote for 3. And I want to clarify, Mr. Mayor, if I could, these aren't 2-year terms. This is only because we're starting over, these are staggered terms. So after these 2-year terms run out, they're actually 4-year terms, when the next time they're appointed.
Right.
I didn't want anybody to think
Initially,
there's 2-year terms,
right.
but initially, they're 2
Initially.
years.
Did you want me to say a joke or something while we're waiting?
Do a little vamping. Yes, Mr. Mayor, if you could.
Oh, yeah.
Can do a Jeopardy theme.
Just round 1.
Oh, hopefully it ends.
And certainly correct me if you think I did not get your selection correct. We have Elizabeth Jimenez with 4, and Steve Perez with 3, and the others have 1 or 2, so there will be another round. So Councilmember Corona selected Elizabeth Jimenez, Ivan Marin, and Steve Perez. Mayor Pro Tem Magana, Alfonso Hernandez, Elizabeth Jimenez, and Steve Perez. Councilmember Rogers, Mr. Aris, Stephen Smith, and Chris Thompson. Councilmember Rabb, Elizabeth Jimenez, Stephen Smith, and Chris Thompson. Did I read the mayors? The mayor was Alfonso Hernandez, Elizabeth Jimenez, and Steve Perez. So that would put Elizabeth Jimenez and Steve Perez in the pile, and then there would be another round, taking all those other names out.
Taking all.
Taking out Mr. Shively, Mr. Hammond, Ms. Jimenez, and Mr. Perez.
So we're just voting for one more, is that it?
Only one more.
One more.
have one that has no name on it, but I guess I'll figure it out.
If it's folded, that's Councilman Corona's. It is yours, it's folded.
And Councilmember Corona selected Alfonso Hernandez. Councilmember Rogers, Chris Thompson. Councilmember Rabb, Stephen Smith. Mayor Vargas, Alfonso Hernandez. Mayor Pro Tem Magana, Ivan Marin. So we have 2 votes for Mr. Hernandez, but no one has a majority as yet. So we would go to round 3. And in this round 3, the Mayor Pro Tem Magana, and Councilmember Corona have selected Alfonso Hernandez, and Councilwoman Rogers, Stephen Smith, and Councilman Rabb, Chris Thompson. So that would give 3 votes to Mr. Hernandez. And with that, you'd have a selection of, if I could just repeat these, in the 4-year terms, it would be Mr. Shively and Mr. Hammond. In the 2-year terms, it would be Mr. Hernandez, Ms. Jimenez, and Mr. Perez.
Okay, thank you. We should really wait till it's voted on. It's not voted yet.
It's not done yet.
So at this time, my appointments would be for the 4-year, if that's the right terminology now, 4-year term would be Mr. Hammond and Mr. Shively, and then the 2-year term would be for Mrs. Elizabeth Jimenez, Mr. Steve Perez, and Mr. Alfonso Hernandez. If I can entertain a motion. A motion by Councilman Rabb and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Magana. Call the vote.
Five oh, motion approved.
Now you can clap. Okay, any closing statements, anybody on the council? I have some. Councilman Rabb?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate all the new planning commissioners. I'd like to encourage all the people who were unsuccessful in applying to continue on with the city. It was a hard decision. We were narrowed down from 7 planning commissioners to 5. I think it would have been easier with 7, but I do encourage everyone to continue attending meetings, continue attending planning commissioner meetings, and just because you were unable to gain 3 votes or you may have not gained any votes, it's nothing personal. We'll continue to move forward with the city. So once again, thank everyone for coming out today.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'd like to add to that congratulations to our new appointed planning commissioners and those who were reappointed. And like Councilmember Rabb mentioned, keep on doing what you do for the city. It takes a village to have a prosperous city, and we appreciate your efforts and all your time in applying and being here with us today. So thank you so much.
Councilman Corona?
Yes. I do want to echo the statements from my colleagues with what Councilman Rab was saying, about continuing to be involved. For those who were on the planning commission, just continue to contribute to the city. You all have a wealth of knowledge now. For those who were recently appointed, it's now more important to make sure you're showing up, because now it's only 5 people. So if one of you guys don't show up, then it could potentially be 2-2 votes. So it's very important. And then if you don't understand something, just there's plenty of people to ask. So I definitely encourage you to learn as much as you can. But congratulations to all. Thank you.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate all of the appointees, the new appointees as well as the returning incumbents. For the new appointees, you have a wealth of knowledge in Mr. Hammond and Mr. Shively to lean on and to learn from as far as mentors. I wish you the best of luck in this. For those of you who are not successful to get the number of votes required, there's always volunteer opportunities. And I just want to put in a plug for our police department. They are seeking volunteers currently. So if you didn't make it as a planning commissioner, please contact our police station. They're looking for people, for citizens on patrol, to work into the office. There's all kind of ways to volunteer. So don't let this stop you from being a volunteer in this city. That's one agency that's constantly advertising and looking for volunteers. Thank you all for submitting your applications, going through the process, and showing up here tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for the outgoing commissioners. Thank you for your service. Congratulations to the incumbents and the new persons coming on. As was indicated by one of the OG here, you are serving at the pleasure of the council. You do represent the council. We expect your attendance, to be the best you can to be here, especially on time. You play a very important role in this city. You're laying out the foundation to our city and giving recommendations to the city council. None of us here can claim that what you have. We're not architects. I'm public safety. You have a lawyer, teacher, businesswoman, another teacher. Not one of us is qualified as planning commissioners. For you newbies, pardon the French, we do offer, and the city manager will be meeting with you, there is training, and I encourage you to go, and I'm talking about planning commissioner training. You need to learn the tools of the trade, not only from the two OGs there, but you need to know, there's a wealth of information that you need to learn. And I encourage you to please do attend those trainings. We're putting them out there. And outside of that, I look forward to working with all of you, and let's build Team Perris. And remember, Perris is a great place to live, work, and play, and it is the center of it all in this region, and you're going to be a part of that team now, so thank you. Okay, that being said, the next item is going to be a lengthy one. We got about an hour presentation. I expect everybody to remain here. Oh, and I'm sorry, it's adjournment. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned.